It's like Tatooine and Mordor and all that rolled into one.
It's interesting you say Mordor, because I was going to ask you earlier. Obviously, there are a lot of parallels between this game and Shadows of Mordor.
Yeah.
And my experience with Shadows of Mordor was, for the first 8 hours of the game, it was one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah.
I was absolutely loving it. Then I got to a point with my power progression and got to a point with the story where, like you kind of said, you get introduced to all these awesome tasks and you're just kicking ass, taking names, and then the repetition kind of begins.
Yep.
But your power level is at a point where becomes a little bit tedious. It's not even that much of a challenge anymore.
Yeah.
So would you say that is kind of a fair assessment of
I'd say the same
what to expect?
The same structure kind of holds true for Mad Max in that a lot of it is tedious, but as you're getting higher progression and you're getting to higher areas, you know, whether or not you're spending a lot of the time in doing secondary stuff, earning scrap, unlocking stuff before you sort of follow that story progression is really going to depend on how tedious it is, right? Like whether it's challenging for you or not. When I was reviewing, I spent a lot of time just sort of like going around, doing objectives, gaining scrap, and so I was fairly upgraded by the time I got into the higher reaches of the story missions, and so camps were a little easier for me. And then I sort of like strayed away from that. What am I doing? I'm just driving straight up here. Do you have the harpoon?
I do have the harpoon. I do have the sniper rifle. So we got plenty of options to take that guy out. So you're saying you did a lot of side missions, and by the time you got to some of kind of the latter story stuff, was it relatively?
It was easy for me, yeah. But like I said, I mean, there's something to be said for like just approaching a convoy and just wreaking havoc, destroying it. Like what I'm doing right now, using my harpoon to pull guys off this base. So I felt like, since that's the core gameplay loop, really, is fight stuff, car combat into fist combat, I felt it was super strong, and it is what it is. It did get a little repetitive, which I thought is sort of a negative, but at the same time, the engagement that I got from just that core gameplay loop was enough to carry it through for me, personally.
And there is a large amount of emergent gameplay in this. Like, you can get into a scenario where you're chasing a convoy and things are going kind of okay until maybe you get a bad hit, like on your side, and then a storm blows in or something.
Sure,
so there are, despite having a limited number of variables, there are like a mixing and a melding of those variables that add up to additional experiences at some point.
Yeah, no, I think absolutely. There's definitely the potential for emergent gameplay here. Sort of once you've been playing it for a while and you look behind the scenes, you can kind of tell there are X amount of things that could be random.
Right.
So you can sort of learn to predict those, which I think draws away from the emergence of it. But by and large, I mean, this is a game that sort of anything that can go wrong will go wrong.